Francis? Francis?
Yes.
Welcome, St. Francis. Excuse me, just a moment. I ordered you something, okay? I want to go get it. Here you go. I'm sure you're going to love this. It's kind of like a pumpkin spice, autumn kind of thing. The latest rage here. So anyway, welcome. Good to see you. Kind of.
Peace and all good to you. I'm very happy to be here. Feels good to be back on solid ground.
Great. Well, thank you for joining me for coffee. I have a few questions. It's really an honor to have you here with us today. So let's start from the very beginning. So you were born into a wealthy family in Assisi with all the privileges that came with it. So what inspired you to give up that whole life of luxury and embrace one of poverty and simplicity?
Yes, I was living the good life, as they say.
Yeah, I heard.
I was enjoying my father's wealth until God stepped in and everything changed. Truthfully, after being captured during an inner city war, I became very ill, and finally when I returned home to Assisi, I was really a lost soul at that point in my life. But after all these experiences, with God's help, I began to realize that these things did not satisfy me. One day, I stopped by a small, broken-down roadside chapel. I went inside to pray. While I was praying, I heard my name called, and as I looked up, I saw a large, beautiful crucifix and heard a voice ask me to rebuild the church. As you can imagine, at first I thought I was losing my mind, but then I thought of the little chapel, and I started to beg for stones to rebuild that little church of San Damiano outside of the town. I actually think that was the first attempt at Franciscan fundraising.
Very good. I think you're absolutely right.
It was only later that I realized Christ was talking to me about the entire church, which had grown cold and uncaring.
A lot of people, though, are curious about your profound love and connection basically with nature, with all of creation. I mean, you're famous for the Canticle of Creation, the song Canticle. And so what does creation mean to you?
Yeah. To me, creation is not just a collection of resources for human use. For me, creation reflects God's beauty and love. All creatures, birds, beasts, the sun, the moon, even the wind and water, these are all our brothers and sisters. We are all in relationship with every part of creation. Humans, the animals, the environment, everything that God has created, we are all in relationship to all this beauty.
So everybody's in relationship with everybody.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, but your connection to animals in particular is legendary. You're kind of known sometimes as the bird bath saint.
Yeah.
And there is a story about you preaching to birds,
Yeah.
and there's another story about taming a wolf. You want to tell me a little about that one?
Yeah. And I like that you catch that it's not just all people, it's all creation that's in relationship.
Right.
Yeah. But that story about the wolf, ooh, that was a nerve-wracking time for me. I think you're referring to the story of the wolf of Gubbio. Yeah, this was a time when the people of Gubbio were terrified of this wolf that had been attacking the livestock and even the people. When I encountered the wolf, I spoke to the wolf as my brother, recognizing that he too was a creature of God, likely acting out of hunger and fear. I asked him to make peace with the townspeople, and he did. The townspeople then agreed to feed the wolf, and he lived among them peacefully until his death. It's a lesson for all of us, actually. When we approach others, including animals, with love and understanding, rather than with fear and violence, we can find a way to live peacefully together.
That's a good lesson for all of us, especially in today's world where there's so much conflict and division. But let me ask you another question now. So it seems like this idea of peace and humility are very central to your teachings. So how do you believe that these virtues can help us in today's world, which, as I mentioned, is so filled with conflict and division?
Peace is not merely the absence of war. It's a way of being, a way of treating others with respect and love, even those who are different from you or me, or whom we might consider to be our enemies. It almost goes against what most people want in life these days, to be first, not to be last.
It's a great way to look at life, St. Francis. So, you founded the Franciscan order, which has had a profound impact on Christianity, on the world, the church. So, what was your vision for this group, and how do you feel about its legacy now?
Yeah, I think that many would say that it wasn't really a religious order that was founded, but a movement. I believe the Franciscan movement goes beyond any Franciscan order and is for the whole world. My vision is really quite simple. First, to always remember that God loves each of us unconditionally. Nothing can ever separate us from God's love. And second, to live the gospel as fully as possible. I wanted my brothers in the Franciscan order to be free from the pool of wealth and status, so that they'd be free to serve God and others. My only hope is that my brothers and sisters continue to follow the gospel with the same joy and simplicity, always seeking to serve rather than to be served.
But your dedication to poverty is a main factor, I think, that most people see in this movement, and it's quite radical, especially, as you say, in a world where wealth and poverty are highly valued. So how do you see the role of poverty in spiritual life?
Yeah, poverty, in my understanding, is also about freedom. The freedom from the distractions and attachments that keep us from fully loving God and our neighbors. For me, in giving up everything, I found everything that really mattered.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. St. Francis, your love for the poor and marginalized was one of the hallmarks of your life, especially with the lepers and the real marginalized, forgotten people. How do you believe we can do better in caring for those in need in our society today?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think love must be the foundation of all of our actions. I think when we see Christ in the faces of the poor, the sick, and the marginalized, then we can see them as our brothers and sisters. And then how can we not help them? Of course, practical steps are necessary, like feeding the hungry and caring for the sick, welcoming the stranger. But these actions must flow from a heart of compassion and love. I always told the friars, we have been called to heal wounds, unite what has fallen apart, and bring home those who have lost their way.
That certainly sums up the Franciscan message totally.
I thank you.
St. Francis, could you leave us with one message, like one guiding principle to live by? What would that be?
Yeah, I would say start by doing what is necessary, then do what is possible, and suddenly you're doing the impossible. If you trust in God, love one another, live simply, serve those in need, I believe that if anyone lives this way, you will find true joy and peace, which the world can't ever take away.
Those are great words, and you certainly summed it up well. I really appreciate you being here, St. Francis, and sharing your wisdom with us today. Your life and teachings inspire so many and guide so many people in our world today.
Thank you, David, and may the Lord give all of your viewers peace.
Thank you very much. Did you like the pumpkin spice with 2 shots of espresso and a little oat milk?
That was delicious. It was just like fall in a cup.
Thank you.